Hey everyone, Peter from FUTO here. Our founder, Aaron Wolf, recently sat down with Brian Lunduke, the founder of the Linux Action Show, to talk about FUTO and FUTO's mission. The intro for their conversation got a little bit scuffed, so this is the intro, and without further ado, here's the conversation, and I hope you enjoy the video.
And when the Amiga failed, like the obvious thing for me was to, I was obviously not going to go to Macintosh because they were like, fuck Macintosh. And I was not going to go to Wintel because, fuck Microsoft, fuck that whole system. Right.
Sure.
So I did go to Linux, and it was like very promising. And like when the Amiga failed in, early 90s, that was right when Linux was kind of coming up. Right. And so I was pretty much, okay, well, I'll do Linux now. And like, honestly, when I started doing, my big kind of success in grad school was I did it like I just wanted to make like I was playing this Hearts game that was like on like the Macintosh in the lab in grad school, and they got bought by Microsoft, and I was like, oh well, Linux needs a Hearts game, so that's why I even started doing anything.
Yeah, it does.
So I did my Hearts game in Java, and then it, obviously I wound up at Yahoo, and obviously nobody cared. It actually helped me get impress the engineers at Yahoo and impress David Philo that like it did work on Linux. But in terms of the user base, like no one ever used it didn't matter that we worked on Linux. Like our products working on Linux did not matter at all.
It didn't matter back then in the slightest. Yeah, no one cared.
So, and I've just kind of been horrified myself, not really even knowing what's going on, but just like, why does Linux still suck? Why does Linux still suck? And like,
why?
It's like, Steve Jobs comes back to Apple, and like immediately they fix Unix, FreeBSD, whatever you want to call it, to have like a good window graphic system, right? So like we get OS X within a few years of Steve Jobs coming back to Apple, and then like Linux is still using X11 from like Sun and like 90.
Heck yeah, what are we going to use? W or something, man? We can't even find the source code for that.
Yeah, so it's like I was and then like, so I've just kind of like been shocked that Linux has not solved these problems, and like I'm kind of lazy, honestly, and I'd rather they do it, but they didn't. So now I'm trying to get busy and we're trying to make good software here. We're trying to make open source, commercial open source, whatever you want to call it, and like trying to make it good and trying to make it actually have users, and so it's kind of funny, obviously all the things that we're doing we don't, again, we have, we're definitely pushing for self-managed servers, things like that, like with our image product. So those who use Linux, but all of our clients are like, yeah, it has to run good on Android, it has to run good on iOS, it has to run good on Windows, and I guess it's called Apple. What's it called now? It's not called OS X anymore. It's called
Mac OS.
Mac OS, yeah.
Lowercase m. Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the way, yeah. And we're looking at it, and like we're trying to recruit engineers. So if the engineers hate us because we're not doing things the Linux way, that sucks. But it's like we can't keep losing.
It's
right?
not
we
that the
win.
Engineers hate you guys. It's that the engineers that you didn't want anyway hate you guys. It's not
okay.
It's
all right.
The Linux and open source world, I mean, it's a broad thing, and there are certain groups that you don't necessarily want in your project because they're just going to make it stall out and not go anywhere. And if you piss them off, no big loss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you don't get a bunch of crummy engineers on your project, oh well, you'll survive, right? I mean,
I mean, you have a very good point there, and yeah, we've kind of taken that attitude. I do kind of worry, like, I do hope the new generation of engineers is like kind of not getting indoctrinated the wrong way. I would say,
it's going extremes. I mean,
Okay.
some of them are, yeah, a lot,
Okay.
but some of them are super not. There's this group of like early 30-year-old engineers. There's just a whole lot of them. They're in their early 30s right now, and they're fully indoctrinated. They're super hardcore, but they're also not producing as much as you'd think. They are in some cases, but they're really not cranking it out. But man, are
Yeah.
they ruining projects. I mean, it's one Linux distribution after another is falling currently because of it.
Okay.
And I don't know that you need to worry about them. I mean, if they're
Yeah.
gonna
No.
if they're gonna hop on Mastodon and scream about FUTO putting out a blog post or something, that's not exactly gonna
Right.
destroy you. I mean, you hate to say things like no press is bad press, sort of a thing, but in this case, it's actually great press.
Okay.
Them screaming about FUTO doing things wrong is just going to make everyone go, huh, well, maybe I should look at FUTO. Maybe they're doing something right if the crazy people are saying FUTO's doing something wrong. So more of that stuff causes more of the people that you want looking at your project to look at it. Another
Okay.
kind of
Good.
important thing to remember, the people that are I'm trying to dance around my words because I don't fully know what your audience is expecting of me here. But the people that are, let's say, indoctrinated, they don't tend to whip out their credit cards and debit cards to contribute to projects financially. They just
Okay.
don't. Whereas the people who are against those who are indoctrinated, they love supporting projects with their time and with their money because they're
Okay.
like, hey, I like this. It's worth my $5 to contribute to what they're doing. So
Yeah. It's funny. We actually
that's how it
had
goes.
one of our things is we're very much saying we're very much have the attitude that you're buying our software.
Yes.
And it's funny, we got some people who they got really mad at us for even saying this is a purchase. They wanted to say it's a donation. And it's like, wait, no, yeah, we're actually trying to make good software. We have responsibilities to make it good, so it's a purchase.
It's a purchase.
And people got mad at us about even that little detail. It was
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
funny.
Oh yeah, I heard all about it, man.
Okay,
I
okay,
got
okay,
emails up the wazoo about what you
nice.
guys were doing, but most of those emails were people excited about what you were doing and thinking it's hilarious
Okay,
how
cool.
people are getting torqued off at you. I mean, it's again,
Okay,
there's a large group of open sourcey folks out there that they want to put their money down on something that they think is worthwhile. That's who you got to be catering to, and that's what you guys are doing. I mean, if you were catering to the other groups, the folks clustered on Mastodon screaming about you every day, well, I'd say, what the heck is wrong with your business model?
yeah, right, right.
They're not going to pay. It's like saying, you know what, I'm a commercial food shop and I'm going to focus entirely on vegan Marxists. And it's like, okay, well,
Okay,
you're, as a hamburger stand, you're not going to do very well with the vegan Marxist crowd. Stop catering to them. They're never going to buy your burger. And so you guys are
okay.
doing just fine.
Yeah, no, and back. I'll say this: like we've heard from a lot of people, but every time I've talked to like a capable engineer, like you said, they don't care.
No.
Like the capable engineers who like are able to do this stuff. One, most of them are already working at like Microsoft or Facebook or something,
Yeah.
and that's like it kind of sucks because like we don't like their business models. We think their business models are abusive and very
Yeah.
kind of opaque and like they've got hidden agendas.
Just a few.
But like, yeah, all the engineers that I've talked to who are capable of doing good stuff don't seem to care about this that much, with maybe a rare exception here and there.
No, they don't care. They don't care. We have examples of this like almost every week. This last week, I don't know if you followed the Open Mandriva thing, but
Not really. No, I'm a
this
Debian guy. I don't. Is Debian wrong?
no, well, sort of. I go back and forth, but what's there's a lot of users, and I'd say most pro Linux users, most Linux engineers and the like, they don't want to be addled with politics. They don't want to have anyone push any sort of agenda on them. They want to focus on good software. They want their computer to run awesome. They don't care. They don't care. There's a whole bunch of them on the left and a whole bunch of them on the right and a whole bunch of them in the middle, but they don't want to deal with that in their software project. So when they see so many projects, there's like Nix OS, one Linux distribution, they went hard political, right? They went super political. It's so much so that they actually conducted a purge where they kicked out their founder and they did all sorts of crazy stuff. They had like a political coup, right? Then you end up with, tens of thousands of users who are like, well, I need to find somewhere to be because I don't want to deal with this garbage. Then Open Mandriva came out. And I was lamenting about this. I'm like, where are the software projects that are just not political? Where are they just making some decent damn software? And that's it. And Open Mandriva, the president of their little association, got a hold of me. And he's like, hey, Lunduke, we're not political. In fact, we're kind of unwoke. We're like the unwoke distro, right? And he sent me this flood of like messages and whatnot to show me how unwoke they are, right? Not that they're anti-left, just that they're not political, right?
Hopefully they're just
they just went non-political, right? It wasn't that they were saying that they were a hard right or a hard left or anything. They were just saying we're not gonna do this extreme leftism stuff that a lot of the Linux distros do. And so I did a show about that. Within like 48 hours, their usage shot through the roof, like nonstop. Like you look at their Google search trends, it bottomed out the last 4 years to 0 and made what's happening now with them 100. Like basically meaning that their people searching for them went up infinity%. Like it just it went from a small middle of the road Linux distro to now it's getting attention everywhere. And the reason for that is because they're catering to, I think, kind of the same people you are. They came out and they firmly said, we're just going to make some damn good software. We're not going to get political about it. And if anyone wants to get political about it, there's a bridge you guys can go jump off. And everyone's like, oh, thank God. People just started flooding to it. Like a quarter of all the users that have signed up for it did so in the last week. And that's over the last decade. And that's not because I'm the most popular man on earth. Like this isn't like some sort of Lunduke /dot effect. It's just that people were desperate for it. They were aching for someone to finally stand. Honestly, you guys could come out hard, like hard, and come out and just be like, no, this is how we're doing it. Damn it. We're focusing on the software. We're making decent software under a decent license. And all y'all can light yourselves on fire. And the more hard you come out about that, I'm not joking, the more people are going to flood to you because of it. The more you're going to get yelled at by the people who are never going to use you anyway. But that's kind of what's happening in software right now is the project, it like with Firefox, right? Firefox was the king of browsers. What killed them? It wasn't that they were slow, because really they were just a tiny bit slower. It wasn't that websites didn't render properly in Firefox. By and large, Firefox did pretty good. It was the psycho political stuff that that constantly dripped it, and so now they're down to like 2% market share. That's what's killing these projects, and they're all flooding to projects like Brave as a web browser it may not be the king, but it grows every single month. Every single month. I watch as Brendan Eich, the guy who created it goes
the guy who was fired from Mozilla.
The guy who created JavaScript. Absolute legend. Every month it goes up. The total monthly million active users goes up every month, and Firefox goes down every month. It's not because they both browse my website and yours just fine. It's the politics.
I mean, I would assume people. Though. I mean, is Firefox losing good engineers though too? I mean, I don't know what it's like in the last time I was at a big company, besides my own company was 2004, and none of this had happened yet. I would assume it does hurt the quality of the software at some point when you're
It's
like not like not just having the best engineers work on it, regardless of kind of how coarse they might, or how abrasive they might be or whatever.
I mean,
Right? I don't know.
I would think so. I mean, shoot. I mean, they kicked out Brendan, right? And Brendan
Yeah.
created JavaScript, man. The man's
Yeah.
a damned legend.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of JavaScript, but okay.
But you know what I mean.
I'll give him credit.
It's
Yeah,
funny. I actually I had Brendan on one of my shows probably
Okay.
7 or 8 years back, and we spent
Yeah.
like half an hour of it bashing JavaScript. He
Oh, yeah,
has a fantastic sense of humor about it. He knows. But you know what I mean? Like if you're running a
Yeah.
web browser company and you have the guy who created the language that underpins 90% of it, you don't kick him out. Like that's that's an ace in the hole, right?
Yeah.
To give you an example, like so the company and foundation behind Firefox, Mozilla, they're continuing to put out new releases, but they are getting to a point where they're potentially losing all of their income, and what they spend their money on is driving people away. So like including some of their engineers. They had an event. Let me see if I can remember the words of it because it's fantastic. They held an event in November in Africa. They I think it was in Zambia. They rented out this luxury resort, right? And they held this like 2 or 3 day event that was focused on my apologies if I don't get this just right. Someone look it up for me. Focused on decolonialist, feminist, LGBTQ climate change using artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that seems like not really a technical.
It doesn't seem like really much of
anything.
anything.
It doesn't seem like aligned with their mission. It doesn't seem aligned with their mission
Right.
to make a good browser.
And so
yeah, I mean they should be really ashamed of themselves. Like
I know.
Yeah, this is kind of what I don't like is like, yeah, at Firefox they should be. Why is our market share going down? This is like this is an apocalyptic situation.
Yeah.
Like we are losing. What are we doing wrong? I mean, this is kind of one of the things that I noticed, dipping my toes into these things. We went to FOSDEM in 2023, and
oh dear,
the thing I noticed was like we went to the Matrix room, and they never talked once about how much worse they were than Slack or Discord or or they or even Signal or Telegram, right? They were just talking. They weren't talking about the product being good for their users. It was very foreign to me that and so it's like, I think at FUTO we are just kind of like, for all intents and purposes, we're kind of running it like a startup, like a real company where we hire engineers, with the exception that we are insisting on a transparent business model.
That's how it should be.
We don't have a hidden agenda. We're not trying to screw over users by collecting their data and selling them to marketers. But after that, like, yeah, we have to have good products, and we're not going to like sit on a high horse saying, oh, we're open source and therefore we're done. Like, it's not done until it's good and you have
good enough
number of users, right?
Yeah, oh man, the Matrix thing. I got on the Matrix bandwagon, I don't know, like a decade ago almost.
Okay.
In those early days. And I had one of the guys that was one of the main devs behind it on one of my shows back then. And he came on, and I had this list of questions. Like I was having problems running a Matrix server because especially back then, but even still, if you want to run a Matrix server and you have a huge number of users, the memory requirements for a Matrix server grows exponentially. Like you add, especially back then, you add 1 or 2 people, it's not a problem. You add 10 people, it's starting to get crazy. And then every single user you add after that, it doesn't just add a little bit of usage, it somehow balloons out of control, right? And so I crunching the numbers, I couldn't run a Matrix server for my fans because there was just too many. Not that I was huge, but like there was just too many for a Matrix server. And I was like, how do I do this without having like $1,000 worth of monthly server bills? Oh, you can't, but it's open source, so isn't it great? And I'm like, oh, guys, I can't move everyone away from anything else. Like, you know, every other Discord and every other chat, just IRC works. Matrix, I can't get everyone over to. And they just couldn't grasp that it was just the quality was not there. I couldn't move them over. It didn't matter how open source it was, which I liked. I couldn't get them over to it. They just couldn't grasp that idea. And I've seen Matrix, it's gotten better over the years, but it still lags so far behind in quality so many of the other options. And that bums me out.
I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, I do notice these people, they do have trouble even viewing the world in that way. They look at something like Matrix and they don't even see it as a competitive landscape. They get kind of, and it's kind of funny because they get annoyed that competing projects exist, but they don't realize that like a healthy marketplace, a healthy free market is like you're competing against them. You're trying to get better than them. Right? Instead, they're just like, oh, why are you working on this? You should work on this instead. It's like, make your thing good, you know? Like, I don't know. It's been bizarre to me. Like I feel like I'm too old to be learning these things now, but like it's a fun thing I've jumped into here for sure.
I'll give you a little bit of insight. So I used to work in marketing for tech companies, right? I worked for a couple of Linux companies like SUSE and whatnot, and I worked in marketing for them. And what was fascinating to me was how often they were afraid to and just refused to compete with closed source. So like we'd have a Linux distribution. Okay, so we have OpenSUSE and SUSE Linux Enterprise and all that sort of thing. Okay, let's come up with a marketing campaign. 9 times out of 10, those marketing campaigns were geared at migrating people from another Linux, another open source product to SUSE. And I'm like, well, why are we doing that? We're all fighting over table scraps here, trying to convince each other that we're a more open, we're better than the other open thing. Why don't we go after Windows and say, okay, we're better than Windows?
Right.
Oh, but you know, there's some problems with that, and there's some migration issues, and we don't have good support for this Active Directory thing, and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, so why don't we fix those things? Oh, yeah, it's so hard. We can't do that. And so we were never fighting against the open.
At least they were trying to compete a little, right? At least they kind of knew they were competing. I mean, a lot of people don't even know they don't even realize they're competing, so they'll imagine that they're just like you're evil, or something instead of just a competitor, you know?
Oh yeah, you're evil. Yeah. Evil. It's baffling. It's absolutely baffling to me. It becomes a morality thing real quickly when it's just like, okay, I don't know that I can really get on board with if we're having a mild disagreement about the specific license used for the source code and software, if one side is like evil and one side's the paladin. Like I don't know that I can get on board with that. Obviously I like it one way over another, but yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm an engineer, so I like programming. Like I'm only doing this because nobody else did it. So yeah.
Oh my heavens!
There weren't any companies I wanted to work for, so I had to try to create a company that I would want to work for. And, yeah.
I mean, that's the way to go. I get it. Yeah. I mean, I did the same thing. I was working at Amazon, and I literally was feeling my soul leave my body, and I was just becoming just sad. I was the saddest man ever. And I just said, to hell with it. Yeah, I'll create my own company, no matter how poorly it does, just so that I don't have to do this anymore. So I get it, man. I totally get it. I like what you guys are doing. I mean, it'd be nice if we saw more support and success with that from the tech press and the open source press. I've been surprised at how little coverage comes out of, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say surprised. I've been annoyed at how little coverage comes out of most of the open source tech press about what you guys are doing with FUTO.
That's okay. Like, I mean, honestly, like we're just getting started.
It's not here. Okay, darn it.
I mean, well,
it's annoying.
Look, I say like our stuff, like the big thing we have to do here is make our stuff good, right? So we've got some good things that we're proud of, but we've only just scratched the surface and what we should be getting done. Like, we're pretty ambitious here. We want to beat Apple. We want to beat Facebook. We want to beat Google, right? So, I mean, in terms of, we've got some good products right now with our keyboard and Grey J and Image.
All three excellent. By the way, I hear about all three of those.
They have to be better than they are now, though, too. Like, I'm not gonna like. I'm glad you're hearing about them, and I hope all of our customers realize that we don't think we're done at all. Like, we've got big plans. We're gonna make them way better than they are now.
Very good. I mean, that's what it's got to be. I mean, shoot. I'm like, if you want to be able to be a user that actually replaces, like, let's say Android with a Google-less Android ROM, and you want to use something better than some of the schlop that's on F-Droid, you need some decent replacements in there. Because, I mean, there are some great pieces of software that are just like sitting on like the F-Droid repositories, releasing a GPL. There's some great things in there, but most of it's hot garbage.
Yeah, we're actually
working on it, but most of it's not good.
Right. We've been looking at this. We're looking at this very, very carefully. We're working on stuff in this area. We're gonna try to get a good store out there for people who care about
a FUTO store,
having good software. Yeah,
really.
We're working on it.
See, I like that idea.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm saying too much here, but
probably you got in trouble from somebody. Yeah.
We'll see if I get in too much trouble.
Someone's gonna yell at you, but see, I think that's needed, though. I mean, someone needs to come along and do it. I mean,
yeah, we're thinking we'll just have maybe we might only have 6 apps in this store to start, just because there's not a ton of open source apps that would be high enough quality, I think, to be.
There's a couple, in store, but you stick Scum VM on there and you've got games taken care of mostly. So I mean, there's some options, but I wish we had more and better. I wish that so many of the open source communities and projects spent less time arguing and fighting about political issues and whether or not FUTO is evil because of a blog post they wrote one time about open source, blah, 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 and just makes their software a little bit damn better. That would be nice for me. As a guy who likes open source stuff, that would be real sweet.
Yeah, I mean, to me, things need to be open source just because of the hidden agenda. I was a part of that at Yahoo, of creating this ecosystem where you don't pay for software, and it's all about data mining and then creating a huge profile on you, filling it into machine learning so that they can figure out how to make you buy things. That's the hidden agenda business model that has to go away. The only way you can get rid of that is open source, commercial open source. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Just giving people confidence, because there's so much software out there that does have the hidden agenda, that's got some code in it doing sneaky stuff. But I worked on Windows 2000, right? So I was at Microsoft during the Windows Millennium Edition, Windows 2000, all that sort of thing. And I have a pretty high level of confidence. Windows 2000 was not super spy-y. There wasn't a lot of hidden agendas. That literally was Microsoft engineers trying to release a good piece of software.
Right.
But it's closed source, and there's so much software out there that does have a hidden agenda, that people, unless they've seen the code, they have no reason to trust that release of Windows actually wasn't spying on them, didn't have tons of telemetry, and did all sorts of weird stuff. It didn't, but they're just going to take my word for that? They should be able to audit the code and have other people audit the code, but they can't, so they have no reason to trust it. It's important.
Right. And the funny thing is if we actually had an OSI approved license for our stuff, Google would be able to take it and add malware, adware, spyware to our stuff.
Well, no.
So the only way we can stop them from doing this is to have the commercial clause in our open source license. So
that's fascinating. That's fascinating to me. So I'm not a huge fan of the open source initiatives. I'm not a huge fan of the OSI. They kicked out both of their founders, and the two people that founded the OSI aren't even allowed to post on their mailing list. That to me is insane.
Wow.
Yeah. Bruce Perrins and Eric Raymond are both permabanned from being involved in the OSI. I'm just like, are you why? But it's crazy to me because they're supposed to be the clearinghouse for all of the open source licensing. It's crazy to me that one, that there's actually a benefit for you guys to not be an OSI approved license. That's nuts. That's nuts to me.
I've never even heard of the OSI until like the last couple of years. So I didn't even realize there was like, this was like something to be coveted. Yeah, I
Well,
don't think it is. I think it's just a mind virus.
I think the OSI, like so many of the open source foundations, like Linux Foundation and whatnot, is more of a trade organization where certain companies, mostly big tech firms, have a certain say and then create scenarios where licensing of certain projects is amenable to their business, right? I mean, that's kind of like what you see with like the Linux Foundation, right? Every time one of their member companies that pays $500,000 a year to sit on their board wants to get into a business, they create a new sub foundation that tweaks the licensing ever so, or creates a community clause that's just amenable to Microsoft or VMware or whoever it is. And the OSI kind of does the same sort of thing on a lesser basis. You know, they live by donations, and those donations mostly come from those companies who benefit from the licensing being tightly controlled.
Exactly. And I actually think this is, this is like a subtle chilling effect. Anybody who wants to make good client software that competes with Microsoft or Google, or even Apple, is not going to get any attention from these organizations because they're fun. Like Google and Apple and Facebook, and they're very happy for the open source developers to be working on back-end stuff that they can like incorporate into their servers or embed into their own clients. They're very unhappy if you actually make an end user product. So I think that's a big reason why we have
don't step on their toes, man.
So we've got all these open source organizations, and they're all being subtly directed to focus less on end user products, and that's why I think that's why they're not good. I think that's a big reason why they're not good. Like Microsoft is never going to go to. Microsoft is going to. I think Microsoft is actually sponsoring all the Matrix talks at FOSDEM, and it's like, Microsoft is still trying to make Skype work or something, right? Or make Microsoft Teams work, right? They're not going to tell Matrix to get their shit together. They're going to just be like, oh, hey, this is like fun, kafebi here or something. And meanwhile, they'll make all the money off Microsoft Teams.
Yes. I mean, essentially, the big companies have their hands in all of open source to a fairly intense degree. I mean, if you look at the deals that most of the big tech firms have with Red Hat, with SUSE, with Canonical, and I mean, all of the major focused on Linux and open source players, well, they dance to the tune of big tech. I mean, what those big tech firms say, that's what goes. I mean, whether we want that to be the case or not, no matter how much they stand up and say, I love open source, it's so great. Like it doesn't matter. I mean, they're gonna do what's best for the business of the big tech companies that pay their bills. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's survival. Even if they're just a foundation. I mean, that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah, and it's probably not, that overt, but it is probably just like you're a hotshot engineer in one of these in the Linux Foundation, like you get paid a salary by the Linux Foundation. What are you going to work on? Are you going to work on making Wayland good, or are you going to work on making the servers good? Probably the servers good, because that's what Microsoft wants you to do.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I mean, things have gotten weird over the last year or two, especially. I mean, things have gotten really, really weird. I mean, like the Linux Foundation, they're huge. Like they're $250 million annually coming into them. $250 million. And that's a ton of money. And most of it's coming from companies like, Google, Microsoft, Meta. Meta pays a lot of money to them, VMware and whatnot. And you've started to notice some very distinct shifts in where the priority lies in all of the Linux Foundation projects towards whatever those companies want. I mean, it used to be, if you went back to the beginning of the Linux Foundation, they had this thing called the standard Linux base, where they were focused on creating standard sets of libraries and frameworks and display servers for all Linux distributions to use. And the whole point was to fund all of those projects so that the base of what constituted a Linux desktop or mobile system was solid and quality and really pushed forward. And that's all. No, they nix that, cut that right away, right? And they've just kind of pushed most of that stuff to the side, and that's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'd love to see, like I know that Steam is working on this quite a bit, and they're funding a lot of the stuff to try to make Steam OS good.
Yeah,
which is Linux based. I would love to see like Tim Sweeney, Gabe Newell really take this stuff seriously, because like I'm trying to do stuff here at FUTO, and like we're trying to build this stuff up. These guys are so hardcore, Gabe Newell and Tim Sweeney, like they could. They could, and they know how bad Microsoft is. They could perhaps make a dent and like give us something. Like maybe it's. I know. I'd love to hear from kind of the Steam people about their challenges making Linux suck less for their stuff. But
I mean, I mean, the Steam OS is I mean, it's interesting what they've done. I mean, with taking Arch and putting Wine on it, and then doing the whole Proton and Vulkan thing, and all of that stuff on top of Arch. I mean, it's really come a long way. What's amazing to me is the work that the Steam has put into it. Collabora has put into it, and a couple other companies into Wine and everything. Right now, if you take a fully up-to-date, 'cause Wine 10, it just dropped, like just a day or two ago. And if you take a current modern version of Wine on top of most Linux distributions, you have a system that has better compatibility with the majority of Windows software than the current version of Windows.
Okay, that's
and
good.
To me, that is amazing. Like, in fact, the speed of some of those Windows binaries running on a Linux system is not just comparable, but actually faster than running under Windows 11. And so, I mean, a lot of that's thanks to Proton and all the work that Valve is putting into it.
Right.
But to me, that's an amazing statement of what is possible when you really focus on great software and think, I'm going to make this my commercial product, and I'm going to polish the snot out of it until that puppy shines, and you really get something great and quality out of it. I don't think we would have had that polish had Valve not come along and said, we're going to really throw a lot of resources behind, Proton and everything else. I don't think we would have. It'd still been good, but not great like what it is.
Yeah. I mean, there is kind of the problem. I mean, like I love, Tim Sweeney is obviously doing great work with his lawsuits against the app stores, and obviously SteamOS is great. There is this problem here, like there's this fundamental problem where with the games people though too, where anti-cheat and open software are like at odds with each other. You cannot have
both.
It's intractable. They cannot work. Like you either have things that are open, or you have anti-cheat. There's no in between.
No.
So hopefully, like, I would like to convince them that like they just have to allow cheating. Like they have to allow cheating, because openness is way more important than anti-cheat.
Right? I mean, just be fine with cheating, I guess. I mean, I agree. I mean, unless you have like, I don't know, like detection algorithms for when it seems like someone's cheating. But I mean, other than that, I mean, that's about all you can do. But I mean, in real life, that's the case too, right? Like in real life, if you go to play poker with someone at a poker table, everyone else around the table, if they think you might be cheating, there's like an algorithm at play, like, I'm counting the cards and this seems like you're cheating. But you can actually
calculate odds that they're cheating.
Exactly. That's fine. But you don't agree to, I don't know, let them stick a camera in your boxer shorts because you got to avoid cheating. Like no. There's a step too far. And I think a lot of the anti-cheat software is like cameras in your underpants. Like no, let's just not do that. Let's just agree to not do that.
Well, I mean, cool. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Like,
it's your call. Your call, my dude. I'm a fan of what you guys are doing, and I know a lot of my fans are too. So
we're glad to have your support. Like I want us to make good stuff that works really well for you. Like, so hopefully let us know if our stuff needs to be improved.
I mean,
That's what I would say. Give us feedback when you have bugs, when our things I don't want our software malfunctioning for people, so let us know.
yeah, it's a bad look.
Like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want that to
I mean,
happen if
look,
you can avoid it.
Look, software malfunctions all the time, and our software malfunctions all the time. We're trying to fix that, right? Like we treat that seriously.
Right. That's how it goes. That's how you do it. Yeah. I got nothing, but if there's anything you want to talk about, I'm fair. I'm fair game. I'm an open book, my man.
I don't know. How do we I guess the big thing here's like, how do we convince the best engineers that like they're kind of like sold their souls to the devil by working for Microsoft or by working for Google or Facebook or Apple even? How do we convince them to like, I mean, I can't afford to hire them all, but even if I can hire a handful of them, but how do we convince them to kind of take a chance, leave their job, start making open source software, source first software that doesn't have the hidden agenda, right? Like that's what I would like to really see happen is kind of like a crucial, like it is engineers' fault that everything is engineers' fault. Like we're supposed to program good stuff for people. And when I look at the current landscape of software, I'm just embarrassed to be a software engineer. Like we need to make
programmers are evil right now. Yeah. I've been saying this for years. Look. The problems are multifold. Just if you're trying to attract the greatest engineers on the planet right now, just don't pussyfoot around it, man.
Okay.
Like, just come out there. There's all of the greatest engineers, like all but 3 of them, right, are all having the exact same issues. One is they don't like exactly what you're talking about, the hidden agenda stuff and whatnot. They're the tracking and the telemetry and everything else that goes along with it. They're tired of it. They're tired of the politicalness. I mean, that comes up over and over again. I mean, shoot, I've been tracking the lawsuits coming out against like Red Hat and IBM and whatnot. They're coming in fast and furious. They're sick of it, right? If companies, big or small, come out strongly and say, we are done with that stuff. We don't do that stuff. And I mean, the terminology people flood
Google
to
and Facebook are locked in. There is no way Google or Facebook, they would be against their fiduciary duty if they ever stopped abusing people with spyware and malware. They would lose all their revenue, and they would get sued by shareholders. So the only solution for an engineer working for those companies is to quit their job.
Yeah, that's the only solution. And that's what you said right
now. They're not going to fix those
it.
companies.
People, you have to, right? People need to be talking about this in very blatant, cut and dry terms. They're far too often in the coverage of all of this stuff, we kind of skirt around the issues and people kind of waffle on it a little bit. We're trying not to make too many people mad, but the reality is you're right. Google, like just to pick one example, Google isn't gonna change, right? Like they can't.
Yeah,
right.
It would like Sanjay or Mark Zuckerberg would be like liable for billions of dollars if they stopped doing what they're doing.
I mean, Google, what was it? The last time I was looking at their revenue, I think it was like 70-something% of their revenue was tied directly to the collection of user data. So they can't stop doing that, right? So, okay. So if you're an engineer at Google and you don't want to be making something shady, you have to quit your job.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not really a way around that.
And also like what they'll do, I've noticed that sometimes when I've called out some of my friends on this, or I should say ex-friends, when I've called out some of my people I used to know on this issue, they'll say, oh, well, Facebook has me working on this special like project. Like that is not part of the evil stuff that Facebook does. Like, no, you got to quit your job anyway.
You know, well,
like it's just like you've made enough money in Silicon Valley. You can afford to quit your job.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even that. Like, when I was working for some big tech companies, they gave me really fancy titles. I had fancy schmancy titles. You know, I was VP and C-level, blah, blah, blah. And they gave me so much money. It was rad. But I was miserable. It was utterly miserable. When I quit working on that side of thing entirely and eventually just went full-time tech journalism, I took like an 80% pay cut. Like I went way down, but it was worth it because then I get to feel good about what I do. I can confidently tell my kids I'm doing something that isn't shifty, isn't shady. I'm telling the truth. I'm making a positive impact in the world and I get to feel good about myself. That's worth it. And there's more to it than just the moolah, but I mean, like there are possibilities. Like there's your company, and I know you can't go out and hire 1,000 engineers right now, so not every great engineer can go flood FUTO at the moment. But there are your company and a lot of other companies out there where you can be an engineer and not do something creepy and not work, do something shitty, and not have part of a big political thing. Like it's great. There's options.
I would also say the engineers who have been at these companies for more than 4 or 5 years and are effective have probably made enough money to retire at this point too. So why are you still? At least maybe they would have to. Maybe they wouldn't have the
They might have to
Palo
move.
Alto home.
They
might have to move from Palo Alto.
Yeah, they can't live in like downtown Seattle or San Francisco. But if they're willing to move, which they probably should anyway. Seriously, people, move.
Hey, I moved. Look, I could have afforded to stay in California, but like I knew I had to leave for ethical reasons. Yes. So I'm here in Austin now.
Yeah, Austin's nice. Austin's nice. I like Austin. It's a perfectly good choice. For me, it's still a little too hoity-toity for me. So
that's fair.
I love Austin, mix. Texas. The Alamo Draft House is fantastic. There's so many things I like about Austin, but
it's like San Francisco, but it's surrounded by Texas, which is kind of nice. The fact that it's surrounded by Texas makes it like the perfect mix of everything you would want.
So that's what I found. Me and my family lived in Austin, just north of where you guys are there, for about a year. And I found there was a lot of nerds. I was real close to the Dell headquarters, right? And so there was a lot of nerds, including a lot of open source and Linux nerds. It was nice. My people were there. It was great. But my favorite part was that it was surrounded by Texas. And I'm like, well, why am I living here when I could just go live somewhere that's more I'll live in the more hillbilly type things. I want to go where more of the rednecks are. So that's what I did. There
you go.
Don't regret it for a moment.
Austin lets you make that choice. Yeah.
Yes. It's good that way. Yeah, keep doing what you guys are doing. But be blunt about it. Like, when the few times I've seen FUTO be blunt, I've wanted to high five you. I probably should have reached out and high fived you more when it did happen. But the people that matter are rooting for exactly the type of open source ishness that you're doing. And I think that's what matters. The more that people yell at you about it, the better. Right? Because you get them worked up, the tech journalists and the tech YouTubers and whatnot, getting all cranky about FUTO's source license. Oh, it's not OSI approved, and oh, it's not really open source, and oh my gosh. That's fantastic, because that causes people to look into it a little bit more. Everyone I know who uses your keyboard, for example, which I know a bunch of them who do, they found their way there because of people yelling at you.
All right, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay,
that's 90% of my publicity is getting the dumb people on earth to yell at me. If you get the dumb people yelling at you, all the smart people are left. Well, let's see, my choices are here. Hang out with the yelling dumb people. What's behind door number 2? And it brings people over. And I don't know. I recommend that approach a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. But either way, you guys are kind of counterculture in a lot of ways, which is kind of funny to me, but you wouldn't think that would be the
Okay.
case, but it's kind of how it is.
Yeah, it was definitely a minefield I stepped into here when I was just like, well, yeah, this is the way I'm trying to help now, and this is how I think I should help. And then people got really mad.
Yeah, it's a minefield, isn't it? It's a crazy, crazy minefield. It's
Yeah.
nuts. Just wait. There's going to be another round of minefields that will start detonating when the large foundations start to view you as a threat. That you are
Yeah.
really close to that level right now where you're starting to see some real success.
Okay.
Your software, like with what you're doing around images and keyboard and Gray Jane, whatnot, as it's becoming more and more, it's
Yeah.
reaching that critical threshold. Or there's a lot of tech foundations like
Okay.
Linux Foundation and whatnot that are going to begin perceiving that as a threat because you're stepping on toes. You're stepping on Google's toes. You're stepping on Microsoft's toes.
Well, we're trying to crush them beneath our boot. That's what we're trying to do.
Right
We
now,
wanna
you've
crush
given them
Microsoft and
definitely a stub toe, right? They definitely their tootsies are starting to hurt. They're noticing it. When they decide it's important, you're going to see those foundations turn, and you're going to see blog posts and keynote presentations where they're going to insert statements specifically against whatever language you use at the time. So if you're talking about specific types of licensing, they're going to go after that type of licensing.
Okay.
That's going to happen. I guarantee it over the next year. And that means that all the people who follow those foundations, Mozilla, Linux Foundation, and a few others, they're going to turn their laser beams to you and they're going to start to vilify you in that way. It's inevitable. It's, you know,
That'll be funny.
it's a bit funny, but it's somewhat inevitable. Like, and the attacks are going to be obscure and bizarre. Guarantee you, it's going to be like, I don't know if you follow the Ladybird web browser at all.
Oh no, we've committed to supporting that.
All right.
I think we're just waiting for his paperwork to go through.
So Andreas Kling, the creator of Ladybird web browser, great engineer, great project. Love that you guys are supporting that, by the way.
Yep. Yeah, no, I've talked to him a couple times, and yeah, he's it's awesome what he's doing.
On it, right? Love that work. He got onto the radar of Mozilla. Well, that caused them to focus some let's just say some delicately worded attacks at him, which caused all of the supporters to begin attacking Ladybird for supporting human trafficking, being transphobic.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, it was crazy.
That's weird.
The attacks were off
he's
the
just
wall.
Trying to like
Make it a web browsing engine.
Yeah.
And literally, he just simply refuses to talk about politics.
I see. I remember talking to him about that. And I was like, people should be able to make jokes and stuff, and like, but whatever. I don't know. Like,
yes,
yeah. Like I'm just like when I was at Yahoo, we were like I was in Yahoo from 1997 to 2004, and like we could just be ourselves at work.
Yeah.
So like that's what I want. I want a place where people can be themselves.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. But you guys are going to be attacked. Somehow they're going to accuse you of transphobia and human trafficking.
Okay.
Guarantee it. Guarantee it. By the end of 2025, I will not be surprised. And when that happens, you will see a surge in new users.
Okay. Good to know.
It's inevitable.
Well, all right. I mean, is there anything? I mean, should we wrap up? I guess. Like, I mean, I really appreciate your support. Like, this is good to know. I'm glad to have. I'm glad that we have fans now. Like, it's really gratifying.
You do have fans. I wish there was more groups like you, because you can only take on so many things, right? I wish there was more. I wish there was more FUTOs out there. Like, I like that there's you guys, and you know there's Rossman over there hammering away at the right to repair, and there's we've got Andreas working on Ladybird, and like there's these little tidbits of people going, hey, let's write some new code that does away with the problems we've been shackled with. I like that. I just wish there was more. I wish there was more of you guys, but I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, we'll try. Well, maybe we'll grow and we'll have 1,000 employees one of these days.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then you guys will get really big, become big tech, and then I'll start attacking you when you're at that point.
No. Well, okay. You and I can have a conversation, and you can tell me all the evil things we're doing
Okay.
once we've defeated once we've defeated Facebook and Google. You can tell me the things I'm doing wrong now. Yeah.
Yes. I almost started telling you a story, and it would have gotten someone in trouble. So I'm going to zip my lip right there,
All right,
and call it at that point before I get
All right.
someone totally yelled at and canceled.
All
But
right.
this was great. Thank you for having me on. It was nice to talk to you guys.
Thanks.
Tell me whenever you guys are doing something new. I want to hear about it.
Okay, we will.
Good.
Thanks a lot.
Rock and roll.